'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today is the day we talk about the best games of 2023. So this is the second part of my end of the year list, where I rank my favorite things of the year, this of course being the video game list, my last one being the anime list, and the future one being the film list. So if you have any interest, please in the future click on forward or click on back to watch those ones, but today we're talking about the great year in video games that we just experienced. An absolute treasure trove of some of the best games of all time dropping all in one year. Seems absolutely crazy to think about how every month it felt like there was more and more games that very easily could be someone's new favorite game of all time, and it was consistent and it was constant and it was wonderful. So today I'm going to take on the challenge and talk about my 10 favorite games. Unfortunately, I was not able to play every single game that came out this year because there was just so much. So if you see any games flashing before you, these are the games I was not able to play. Would they have made the list? Quite possibly. There's some big names in there, so very easily they could have made the top 10 list. I mean, some of them were nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards that I just haven't played yet. It's just been a crazy year, but it's always nice to know that there are some great games to look forward to. So with that out of the way, and without further ado, let's jump in today with number 10.
Yeah, hate that I do this, never fear losing. And when I get up in the game, y'all be improved. A real problem.
Street Fighter 6 is is the sixth Street Fighter? Kind of, sort of. It's hard to describe with something like Street Fighter where there's so many different editions of every game, but this is the sixth main Street Fighter game. And it is a great return to form while also jumping into the new era. I wasn't a huge fan of Street Fighter 5, but man, Street Fighter 6 took every problem that Street Fighter 5 had and walked it away. Not enough single player content, let's give them a whole mode where they can explore different cities and meet classic characters and do fights like crazy, and it's a whole fun new thing. No arcade mode, well, of course we'll toss that in. It feels like a side mode, honestly, with all the other stuff going on in there. And of course the online is wonderful, and there's great classic characters and there's great new characters to play as, and it's just solid, fun Street Fighter. They include classic controls, but they also include new modern controls to introduce people into the franchise. It's the most accessible Street Fighter game that there ever has been, and that's wonderful as well. Getting more people into this franchise, people think it's like, oh, it's a sixth game, do I have to play the rest of them to even get into this? No, the story doesn't really matter that much in a fighting game, so hop on into Street Fighter 6, give it a try. Fall in love with one of these characters, all of these characters, whatever. Play online, play by yourself. There's all ways to play this game, and all of them are correct, and all of them are a ton of fun. Roots of Pacha is the indie pick, I guess, my highest indie honor of the year, which when playing it, I didn't think it would be necessarily, but, over time and as the time's gone on, I really had a quite big fondness for this game. It is a lovely farming game, simply put. Of course, if you're bored of farming games or you're tired of seeing them, maybe this isn't for you, but maybe it is. The gimmick here is that it's prehistoric times, and you're exploring this world that's before tools. So you're learning how to craft tools and learning how to expand your farming arsenal and being able to grow your farm in new and better ways. You start with a stone, and you use this stone for everything. You use it for fishing, you use it for hoeing, you use it for breaking rocks, and eventually you learn how to use better tools to do all that stuff. And you grow with your people, and you grow in your little village, and you get to meet the town, and there's a lot of wonderful characters, and you meet people from other villages as well. The closest game, of course, to describe this to is Stardew Valley, with the mining and the fishing and the farming and the character development and all that stuff, and even the art style a little bit. But this game is more than just a Stardew Valley clone. It does have a lot of that same DNA, but of course it's a farming game, so you really can't not be a good farming game. It's able to do its own thing, like I said, with all the prehistoric stuff and learning about this culture, and you can go in the mines, and there's a whole tons of puzzles and different mythologies to learn about in there, and of course the farming, and you learn how to grow seeds in different ways, and you have to go forage for seeds for a little while so you can grow them. You can't just buy seeds, because these people don't know a pumpkin is until you grow a pumpkin, and then it's, oh, okay, now we understand what a pumpkin is, and as you grow more of them, they get better, and you better understand them, and it's a really cool feedback loop of that. And like the money isn't exactly money, it's like you give to the town so the town can give back to you, basically. It's a great barter system. It basically works the way you think money would, but it makes a lot of sense with how the game is structured and everything like that. So like I said, if you're tired of farming games, I mean, maybe it's not for you, but if you adore farming games and you haven't played Roots of Posture yet, I implore you to do so. It is an absolute treat. Octopath Traveler 2 coming in at number 8. I promise I didn't do that on purpose. This is the sequel to the game that brought us the absolutely wonderful HD 2D art style a couple years ago. This took every problem that the first game had and pretty much washed it away while also expanding on the great elements of the first game. It has 8 wonderful characters with 8 great stories that could very easily be their own RPG. But their stories intertwine and they connect, and they actually interact in each other's stories this time. The first one didn't really do all that much. This game boasts, dozens of hours of playtime in this world that seems to never end, and like there are fights galore to do, and there's different strategies to employ, and there's bosses, and there's amazing music, and it's just a really, really good classic feeling RPG with some amazing new quality of life elements for the new age. It's a treat. If you love RPGs, if you love turn-based RPGs, it's absolutely wonderful. I think the art style is one of the best there is. Like I said, 8 different characters to play as, 8 different stories to explore. There are multiple ways you can play this game, like whoever you start with is basically your main character, and then if you want to, you can force your way through their entire story. I wouldn't really recommend that. I'd probably recommend going and collecting everybody and then kind of bouncing around. The game definitely has like a feel how it wants you to do it. So when you start, everyone's about level 1. But then like when you collect everybody, you can see like, all right, the next lowest level is this story, so let's go do that. And then you kind of bounce you around all the world. So you get every story beat and you kind of feel like the world is growing with you. And you never lose any story beats along the way, really. Like the story is very well crafted. And of course, like if you leave for a long time and come back, it very much is happy to explain to you everything that's happened in fine detail. So you will not forget where you are in this world. And it's just an absolute treat to play a game like this. Like I said, if you're a turn-based fan, it's a must. If you're an RPG fan, it's absolutely worth a go. And if you just like the art style, by all means, try it out. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a sequel, of course, to Jedi Fallen Order, which is also a really good Souls-like game. This game expands on what the first one did, makes the world feel a little, it's a whole galaxy actually, we're talking about Star Wars here. Every world, let's say it like that, feel a little bit more expansive. There's like a main world with like a town, and you can interact with a lot of NPCs and shops and stuff, which definitely was not a part of the first game. Of course, the great customization is back. Like you can customize your lightsaber. You could do different stances, whether you just want a single blade, you can have double blade, you can have 2 blades, you can have that new like Kylo Ren type blade, or you can even have a blaster. And that's one. It really mixes up the different play styles. However you want to play this game, it's by all means go ahead. I think the gameplay is a lot smoother. Maybe it's just me. Gotten better with games over the last couple of years, but I think this game is easier. I've heard people say it's a little bit harder, but in my opinion, it's a little bit easier. But it's interesting. It's very fun. It's very fluid, and I have a lot of fun playing it and exploring it. It's strange to me that we don't have more Star Wars games, but like when we get something great like this, I'm willing to wait for it. So by all means, I'm ready for whatever else is up with this franchise. So Star Wars as a whole, or whether or not it's just the Fallen, I guess is what it's just the Jedi, not the Fallen. So the first one was called Fallen. This one's just Jedi Survivor. So the Star Wars Jedi franchise, weird. I don't know. Cal Kestis' story. Whatever they want to do with that. Pikmin 4. What to say about Pikmin 4? There's no games quite like a Pikmin game, is there? Is it a real-time strategy game? Kind of, sort of, but like not really at the same time. Like Pikmin is its own genre of games, and there's not many of them, so it is a delight every time a new Pikmin game does show up. So Pikmin 4 is the longest, I'm pretty sure, Pikmin game. This is the longest one I played. 100% of this game, I didn't like max out every challenge map, I didn't get a platinum and everything, but I got every treasure, I got every collectible and all that stuff like that, which I had a ton of fun doing. The game very much, like, once it started, the starting was slow, but once it started, I was like hooked, and I just wanted to play more, and every time I got a chance to play it, always felt like I didn't have enough time to play it. I always just wanted to keep playing Pikmin 4, which is an absolute wonderful problem to have. As you're going along and you're collecting all these treasures, like it has a nice combination of like the first game where you collect ship parts, and the second one where you collect treasures for money, and the third one where you collect fruit. It does all of that. So it's a nice walk down memory lane of all the Pikmin games when it comes to treasures. But this one, of course, you're collecting castaways as well. People that have come to this world and are now stuck, and now you need to help them. And it's a ton of fun. There's different modes to play. There's a tower defense mode, and there's like these things called Dandori battles, which is like do all this stuff as quickly as possible. And then there's like the versus Dandori battles, which is like you're collecting stuff and your opponent's collecting stuff, and you need to collect more than they do. And then there's just the classic Pikmin, which is the world, and there's monsters about, and you need to get all this stuff before night falls. But then there's also like the caves that return from Pikmin 2, which, you know, you go in there, and in this one you seemingly have infinite time to do it, so there's no time constraint when you're in the caves, and you can just do what you need to do down there, and that messes up the gameplay a little bit too. So there's a lot of variety here. On the surface, it just looks like, well, it's going to be more Pikmin, and it is, but it takes that formula and splits it in 5 different ways, and all the ways are fun while playing it, and never felt like I had enough time to play it. Wonderful. It's a wonderful time. Like, if you kind of missed it, with a year like this, it's easy to miss something like a Pikmin 4, which isn't a huge high-budget release. To Nintendo fans, Pikmin is a beloved franchise, but like to the general public, it's not as much. It's absolutely worth going and picking up, and it's one of the probably last big games on the Switch, so by all means, go and give it a try. Fire Emblem Engage. Now, I knew this was going to be on the list from January. The game came out a long while ago now, before all this craziness has happened with all these Game of the Year nominees and all this stuff. This game showed up and really announced itself as like, this year is going to be wonderful if we have a game like this in January. And the year did not disappoint. Fire Emblem Engage started this year off on the right foot. Another absolute delight to someone like me. I love Fire Emblem Engage. It's one of my favorite franchises, so to be able to start this year off with a new Fire Emblem is wonderful. Now, of course, it's not the best Fire Emblem in the world, but it's still a really solid Fire Emblem. It kind of goes back to basics while adding its own little twist on it. It's a celebration of the entire franchise and bringing back old characters while introducing some really great new characters that I love as well. The story is pretty solid, pretty basic, like I said. The whole game, from like a Fire Emblem fan, is like, yeah, this is just more Fire Emblem, but that's far from a bad thing. Fire Emblem is, well, like I said, one of my favorite franchises, so just being able to play another 40-hour-long adventure with new characters to fall in love with, and then even some familiar faces, some wonderful music, some absolutely fantastic gameplay. It's a full package that I can't forget about. And this is the most Fire Emblem-like Fire Emblem on the Switch, unless we count like the virtual console stuff. Three Houses was kind of its own new thing. This one is like a back to solid, familiar gameplay. The map system, the replaying missions, it's all there. It's all great. Characters are great. Music is great. Just a great time. Final Fantasy 16 is one of the most lopsided games I think I've ever played. Final Fantasy 16 is sometimes one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life, and sometimes it really drops the ball on itself. Like, for instance, there's one part where you fight a boss, and you are yourself can turn into like a big monster, because the part of the story is like it takes the summons that Final Fantasy is known for and envelops them more into the story and into the characters and creates them as part of the plot. So like the summons have never felt more attuned to Final Fantasy than this game. So you yourself can play as Ifrit, which is a classic Final Fantasy summon, and you have to fight Titan, which is this huge colossus at some point in the game. And it is this grand boss fight, and it goes on for seemingly like an hour. Like, it is a long time, and it's awesome, and it's epic, and it's grand, and it's, you know, every big adjective you want to throw at it. And it's a ton of fun. And then the next mission, you have to go and collect some sand. And it's like, well, I know the next mission after something that huge isn't gonna be something even bigger. Like, that's just gonna be like kind of overkill, but it's just the weird bottoming out of it. But that's like the big negative about this game. The rest of it, I have a ton of fun with. Some people like to complain about the combat. I had more fun with the combat the more I interacted with it, just being able to switch up different styles on the fly and using different ideas the further along you go with it. The story starts pretty confusing, but once you're able to sink your teeth into it and really feel like what these characters are going through and the world they're trying to build here, it works and it's wonderful. Some people have equated it to like Game of Thrones and Final Fantasy, and I can definitely see that. Like, it is more heady, it is darker. It does start kind of like Game of Thrones would, where it's like, here's just everything and just figure it out. So, you know, maybe replaying the game, the story would absolutely make more sense from minute one, but it is a satisfying conclusion. And there's DLC coming out. I don't know where they're gonna put that. It's cool to see like Leviathan, because the whole time I was like, I don't know when Leviathan's gonna show up, and he didn't. So it's cool to see like a DLC with him in it. Excited to see where that goes, but as is, Final Fantasy 16 is an absolute treat, and like I said, when it is at its best, it is one of the best games of the year. Spider-Man 2. What to say about Spider-Man 2? I mean, it's Spider-Man more. First Spider-Man is a great game on PlayStation 4. This is a great game on PlayStation 5. It is pure fun from minute one. I feel like it just trims most of the fat on this franchise. It is like a pure injection of fun the entire time. It is fast-paced, it is enjoyable, it is quippy, it's fun, it does a lot of cool characters in a new, interesting way. Of course, we got Kraven, and of course we have Venom being like two big ones to talk about, and Venom stuff is great. You know, I don't want to spoil stuff, of course, but, you know, the Venom stuff, I'll just simply put, is a great time. The Kraven stuff, we have to have our big bad, and we go with that. And there's other cool characters that we meet along the way. Some that we know, some that we meet this time. Like Mysterio's a cool new one, and this one, like Black Cat's a cool familiar one. It's just stuff like that. The world feels lived in because we're constantly getting fed new characters, but also we're reminded that this world, you know, does have classic characters that we can meet along our journeys. The swinging will never not be fun. The introduction of the web wings is genius. Being able to just whip around at even higher speeds, and like I think I saw like video of like how the first one ran, and it looks like molasses at this point, which is crazy because when that first one came out, that was super fun and fluid, and now this one just cranks it up just that much more to where you constantly can whip through it. If you're good at this web swinging, it feels like butter, just swinging through the streets of New York as both Peter and Miles, and it's just a blast. Resident Evil 4. Now, of course, this is a remake of the classic Resident Evil 4, which is still seen as one of the best games of all time, and you know, I probably agree with that. Resident Evil 4, this one, I think, is even better. It is an expansion on the game while also trimming out some of the fat that the first game has, and some of the sections that, you know, can be trimmed up a little bit. The Resident Evil 4, like the characters of Leon and Ashley, and you know, even like Ada, are so iconic that having to spend more time with them, I'll never look down on that, and I'll always be happy to do so. And this game, like Pikmin 4, I always felt like I didn't have enough time while playing it. I always wanted to just play more. And I never got like a chance to like sit down and just like binge play this game. because like it's not overly long. It's like 30-ish hours maybe. Just the gameplay is fun. The gameplay loop even is more fun than the original, where there's side quests to do, and you can meet up with the merchant, and he'll have little things, like little hunts to do maybe, or like, of course, there's like the blue targets. That's back. You get spinels, and you can collect treasures to sell for a ton of money, and all that classic stuff that you love is here, while also adding a ton of new stuff, which just makes it a lot of fun. And this is a game that I'll happily go back and play, because I remember playing the DLC, the Separate Ways DLC, and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, is this the best game of the year? Like, just this gameplay itself, and just the way that the story moves, and the music, and the atmosphere, and everything. I was like, is this the best game of the year? And I was like, no, there's one game better than that. There's one game better than Resident Evil 4, but it's so close. It's right there. It is so close. I love this game. Of course, it's easy to just be like, well, I'm excited for Resident Evil 5 now, but like, this was the one. When Resi 2 came out, and then Resi 3 right behind it, the Resident Evil 4 was the one that people, me included, were like, let's see what they can do. And it's here, and it was absolutely wonderful, and it was worth the wait, and every little bit about it. It's just an absolute delight. So, before we get into our game of the year, let's talk about some honorable mentions here. Persona 5 Tactica. It feels weird not being able to put a Persona 5 game in the Game of the Year list proper, but this isn't my favorite genre of games, and I haven't had a ton of time to play it since it came out pretty late. It's a fun little game, but I'm happy to play more of it later on. We Love Katamari Damacy Reroll plus Royal Reverie is a silly title for a silly game about rolling a ball around. This is a remaster with some new content tapped onto it of a classic Katamari game, but it's a delight to play. Have a Nice Death is a fun little roguelike with a wonderful little art style that I had a ton of fun playing. Yeah, if you like roguelikes, by all means give it a try. Like, it's super solid. It's akin to something like a Dead Cells. It's a ton of fun. Wild Frost it might be the hardest game here, despite its cutesy art style. It is a brutal card building game. Another roguelike, but it's a deck builder versus an action game, and it is hard. Like, this game will beat you down until you know every mechanic and every card inside and out. Like, it pulls no punches from minute one. It is fun. Like I said, the art style, it's lovely. But, like, this game doesn't care about your feelings. Lego 2K Drive is basically Forza Horizon for kids. It's fun. It's nothing, like, amazing. It's not top tier, but it's fun to drive around in this world. Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life. If you weren't tired of farming games, of course, a remake of a classic Harvest Moon game should be right up your alley. This one is great. It's just Roots of Pots is a little bit better. So, that brings us to Game of the Year. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is my Game of the Year this year. I kind of thought it would be going into this year. It's a sequel to what is crowned one of the best games of all time, and then it builds and is better, in my opinion, than that game, so therefore, it would also be one of the best games of all time. Tears of the Kingdom is the premier experience on the Switch. It's the best, it might be the best game on the console. Everything about it is like the world, the characters, the music. What makes this game special is its feeling of exploration. No other game, not even open world games, like, has felt the way Zelda feels to, explore the world. Being able to, once you're past the tutorial island and you're off in Hyrule, it's like, go ahead, like, do whatever you want to do. And that sense of exploration and sense of, like, finding new things. And I remember starting, and then there's, like, immediately, like, we recommend you go in here, but, like, whatever. And there's, like, 3 different side quests that start immediately and, like, pull you in different ways, and you can see the whole world on your map, and you go to different towers to unlock. Like, you can see it better, and there's, like, of course, there's the Tears of the Kingdoms to find. There's, like, the 4 domain temples to do. On top of that, there's more now included in that. Like, there's more than just 4 dungeons this time. They're actual dungeons, so it's not fully classic Zelda feeling, but much closer than Breath of the Wild had. The shrines are back, of course. The underground is a full new thing. And of course, the sky is its own, like, feels like its own little dungeon up there. It's a whole world that not many games can like bolster like an open world like this, where it's truly just like, if you want to go to the hardest part of the game and do it, go ahead. Like, if you think you're good enough, go do it right now. Like, it doesn't really mind you doing things out of order. Like, out of order, the game doesn't really have an order either. Like, it has like a recommended, like this one first, this one second, this one third. But like, if you want to do what they recommend fourth first, the game doesn't like freak out. It's not like, oh no, you did that order. And that goes with like all the puzzles in this game. All the shrines in this game, like, you can do in multiple ways, I'm sure. I'm sure there are crazy, weird ways to do every single puzzle in this game that people may never discover because it's seemingly infinite it's basically just like, here are the tools, go. And the game, I'm sure, has a set path that wants you to figure out these puzzles in. But if you can figure out a completely different way than the developers intended, the game still gives you that classic do-do-do-do-do-do-do and doesn't fault you for doing it a different way. It's the same reward. If you did it perfect, or if you cheesed it, some path in between, it's the same reward at the end of the tunnel. And that's what's magical about this, is the sense of exploration is fully realized because of something like that. Where, you know, other Zelda games, like, yeah, you're exploring, and if you explore more of the world, you get more treasures and stuff. But it's always, like, puzzles that have one solution. And you have to do that one solution, and then you can go forward. But of course, isn't a bad thing. Like, something like Tears of the Kingdom couldn't happen until, like, this year. It's a very modern idea. I'm not faulting older Zelda games, but it's just, you know, rising this one more. No other game quite gives you that level of exploration and experimentation that so does. I haven't even talked about how the physics work in this game. Like, you can just build things out of seemingly nothing. Like, people have built mech suits, they built entire, like, houses, they built, like, death machines. It's seemingly infinite. If you can build it, if you think you can build it and you have the power to do so, give it a try. It might just break immediately, but you might have something wholly new that no one has ever done before, because building this game seemingly is infinite, and if you have the resources, you can just go and build something the world may have never thought of, and they'll solve a puzzle that, you know, people have done a million different ways, but you're the millionth one. Tears of the Kingdom is an absolute delight. You knew that already. I don't know, some people are dogging this game a little bit just to, like, they're afraid to, like, say it's one of the best games ever made if they're just defending Breath of the Wild. You know, I'm sure people have their own reasons, and I'm not going to be negative here in this video at all, but, you know, Tears of the Kingdom is just such a magical experience that, to me, no other game can top it this year. I mean, maybe one of those games I didn't play would have, but it's amazing. It's simply incredible. So that's my list of the best games of 2023. Of course, I've missed stuff. So the big ones, I know. Some of the smaller stuff, though, if you played a game that seemingly passed me by that wasn't part of this video in any shape or way, please let me know, because I'm always interested in hearing, like, new games, new experiences that people loved that, you know, I didn't hear about. So that'll about do it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching, and as always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.